Is a good rule of thumb if I don't know what I'm going to do with the data that I don't need to collect it?
I think you need to really plan, how am I going to use this?
Yeah.
What's important for me? You also know your team's best.
Yeah.
Sometimes people need a kick in the pants to start tracking things. And I think that's where you need to look at what's the culture of your office. But your team needs to understand what that long-term benefit. What do they get out of tracking and putting the right information in? So depending on your space, I always look at what's my niche, what's my focus, how do I then differentiate? Keep in mind, your goal is not to run a search and find that perfect candidate that's going to say yes, that's going to take the job today.
Hi, I'm Kortney Harmon, Director of Industry Relations at Crelate. Welcome to another episode of the Full Desk Experience.
All right, we're here at the show floor of a conference. We're doing this completely different, off the cuff today, and we're doing it based on our conversations that we've had today. What do you think, Chris?
We've had lots of them. Let's do it.
All right, this is the Full Desk Experience. I'm your host, Kortney Harmon, and this is Chris Hesson. And the conversation surrounding our stay here at this conference really revolved around ATS blunders. And when I say ATS blunders, it's what's going wrong today, what went wrong before, why aren't we successful, and what can we do about it today? So, Chris, you want to talk about the top five?
Let's do it.
All right. The first one that I heard is really revolving around a lot of things we hear from a lot of people. I'm sure you hear it more than I do. It's really about, I can't find my data in my system. What do you think about that?
It happens far too often. I think there's really two big value adds you get from an ATS. One is keeping you organized in the present, being able to understand what candidates are where, what's going on in your process. But the other is finding that information and that already tracked. And I think what we often find is people don't have the forethought to look at, what do I need to extract from my system? What's really important? And I think people do really one of two things. One, they are tracking too much.
Yes.
They overcomplicate it. They have forms with far too many questions that their team is going to ever fill out, but they have so much data that they can't sift through the haystack to find repeals. Having a bigger haystack doesn't mean it's going to make your job easier. The other end is they don't capture enough, or they don't capture the right things. So looking at what's important for your space, what type of information you need to find out, and not building your database around purple squirrels. Those types of searches, we know we're going to get them, but if you are always adding and adding more things to track, you'll very quickly get to 5,000 keywords and 800 titles you're trying to sift through to really find what's important for you. So be strategic, think ahead of what's important. What do I need to pull out? What type of data do I need to retrieve? And that's what you really need to have your team focus on, entering or tracking inside of your database.
Is a good rule of thumb if I don't know what I'm going to do with the data that I don't need to collect it?
I think you need to really plan, how am I going to use this?
Yeah.
What's important for me? You also know your team's best.
Yeah.
Sometimes people need a kick in the pants to start tracking things. And I think that's where you need to look at what's the culture of your office. But your team needs to understand what that long-term benefit. What do they get out of tracking and putting the right information in? So depending on your space, I always look at, what's my niche? What's my focus? How do I then differentiate? Keep in mind, your goal is not to run a search and find that perfect candidate that's going to say yes, that's going to take the job today. Your goal is, who are the people that are worth my time to reach out to? Who are the people that are going to be in that ballpark, be in that world, and either be the right person or the right person?
Yeah. I love that. We could probably talk about this forever. I had so many conversations about, oh, I need to track my KPIs better over this last year because it's a different market and my teams feel like I'm micromanaging them. But in reality, I'm just trying to help them get to the conversation better. I'm sure we could talk about this forever. Let's go on to number two. Number two, obviously, being here as an ATS CRM, a lot of people have the conversation. I don't think I set my data up or my system up in the right way to begin with because I was moving too fast. I needed to go, I needed to implement, and I'm paying the price now.
100%. Far too often, I see when people make a move and want to move to a new system, they're busy. They have a lot going on. They're managing business development, bringing in new clients. They're running active searches. They have a lot on their plate. And the mindset is, I'll take the time later to go back and set it up. That approach You will never have the time to go back and say, right. And what you do is you find yourself a year or two in and realizing you've been so inefficient and wasted so much time and effort because you didn't slow down and think through, how am I really going to use and leverage this? So whether it's looking at making a move and coming over and joining us here at Relate, or maybe it's looking at your system now. How do you operate? What is it that you and your team actually do? What do you need to track, and what is the actual data and intelligence you need from it? Again, going back to the complexity concept, people's either go way overboard and try to track far too many metrics, far too many KPIs that they have no intention of actually ever using to benefit their business. What are those core things that are going to help you identify where's the path that my business is going, or what is the path or direction individual members of my team are going, and how can I help get them to the next level? So take the time, slow down, be strategic. It's that extra week in the beginning is going to save you years of headache down the road.
But my question twofold is, what happens if we already went through this process or already into a system? Is it too late? And what do you do about it now? Because so many times people are like, it's official. I need to change the system. It's the only way for me to do this. You have any thoughts about that? Is it ever too late? Can you ever recover from that?
It's never too late. You can always recover. It might be more complex for you to then to clean up, sort through, but it is still absolutely worth that time to streamline your process, streamline the operations. Ultimately, you need to keep it simple for your team. We all know recruiters, and if it's too many clicks, too many steps, too many buttons, too many screens, they're gonna find a way to not do it. We really want to focus on how do we make it easy and simple for our teams to do the right thing and track the right thing. You want to unlock the power of your team, and adding more steps is not the way to do it.
Yeah. Another conversation I heard, I don't know if you heard this one, is too many tools. My people are outside of my system. My people are doing so many things. I demoed 5 new tools in the last 2 weeks. What are your thoughts about that?
I think, especially for a lot of business owners and those in operations, it's very easy to chase down the shiny, flashy new tool. I talked to one office and they realized they had 3 or 4 different sequencing emailing tools and weren't using any of them. They're just now paying hundreds of dollars a month for things they aren't using. It's also very easy to point and blame a tool when you're not having the success you need. Again, it's slowing down and being strategic, looking at what are the investments I'm going to make? What is the ROI I'm going to get, both from a monetary perspective as well as a time perspective? I think a lot of it comes down to be planned, be mindful, keep that eye towards the future, and how are you going to use this? What is the expected value you're going to get? It's very easy to move too fast, decide, hey, I'm going to go grab this thing without really seriously looking at how is this going to tie into my process? How is my team going to actually leverage and use this? And where am I going to find success? How is this going to lead to more revenue for my team and my firm?
I'm going to share something that I don't usually share about our product a lot. But we were at dinner last night and we were sitting at a table, and the right tools matter. Where I'm getting at is the right tools matter, because we had someone that actually is a user of Relate, and they were speaking so wonderfully about us, not because we were sitting there or that we paid them. But it was the idea that they actually are paying for 2 systems that do the same thing, because they couldn't get out of one contract, but they are getting tenfold the revenue using Relate that they were using another system. And it's worth the time and money to continue to pay that one seater to be able to use the right system the right way. And it's making a difference in their business.
The right tools make all the difference in the world, but it's really being strategic. And they made that decision to say, let's go evaluate the landscape. Let's look at what's out there. They went with Relate. Certainly excited, always glad to have them. But it was able to simplify and streamline what their teams are doing, how their operations is understanding their business, planning for growth, and they're able to thrive in a market where some people are struggling to survive.
So I think that leads us to the next. We talked about tools, and automation is the topic of conversation here, not just AI. AI is a buzzword and it's helping people, but automations is where I'm hearing I'm not doing it the way I need to be doing it. So I know you and I have had this conversation, and honestly, it's going on like a year from like the first time we had this podcast about automations. So we can actually link that in the show notes about that, where you should start for automation. but I'm hearing I'm not doing automation the way I should. Let's talk about it.
I think automation, it comes down to planning and being strategic. I mean, ultimately, what automation can do is take a process and help ensure your team are hitting the steps without them having added work. Now, step one on that is you have to have a process. What are the steps my team should be doing? What are the actions, events, and what is the sequence my team needs to run and operate through? I talk to too many offices where they hear automation, they love it, they're excited, but they don't actually have a process or a plan. And that's really the first step, is determining, if this is going to be an automation around, following up on placed candidates. Well, what should that process be? When are the reach outs? What am I doing? What is the purpose and goal of each one of those connections I make? And is this something where I want it as an automation of planning, where it's going to notify a team member, say, hey, Kortney, it's now time to go follow up with this person. Here's what you're trying to achieve. Or is it automation of execution, where it's going to send that email automatically? Slowing down, understanding your process of business, and looking, what am I getting out of each step? Having a tool like sequencing, having automation is absolutely incredible. But you still have to slow down and think about how you use it. How is this going to impact affect my business? And what are those things that my team isn't doing or doesn't do enough? That's a great place for automation to come in and give them either that kick in the pants or do those steps for them behind the scenes.
What's our fifth one? We had fifth one that we're talking about.
Well, we hit on it a little bit.
Okay, well,
It's come up a lot. And I think in general, it is overcomplicating things. Ultimately, I think success in any platform, the recruitment space, is keeping it, the old KISS analogy, keep it simple, stupid. And that is so incredibly true. When you're looking at your tools, how can you keep it simple? And how can you have a simplified tech stack? How can you make sure you're effective, you're using things correctly? When you have a process, how can you keep your process simple? When you have your ATS, your database, how do you keep it simple? And simplicity doesn't just happen overnight. We live in an entropic world where over time, things will get more complicated, turn to disorder, and get crazier. It takes a lot of effort to keep things simple and clean. But ultimately, that's how you keep your team moving fast. That's how you're able to unlock new revenue streams. That's how you're able to get to that candidate when you need to, placing them and quickly turning things around. So be strategic, plan, keep it simple.
I love it. We've had so many conversations, and I know people are like, oh, we need to get with Chris and his team, because we went into these sessions and I realized we're not doing something that we should be, or we could be doing something different. And I think, the first step in any good concept or any good association is realizing you have a problem. And
Absolutely.
I love that the conferences are shedding light on these items, and these owners are taking takeaways to say, how can I do better in the market we're in today? How can it's not necessarily shift my business, but it's how can I pivot to do better with what I have today? So I love it. I think this has been great. We've had so many good conversations, and I can't wait for the next one.
We're ready.
We're going to be speaking at Staffing World. If you haven't seen on social media, come join us at Staffing World Wednesday at 10:30.
I think it's 10:30.
I think it's 10:30.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about sourcing. America's Got Talent, and we want them all. Super excited about being able to be at the next conference with you guys. And stay tuned, listen in, and have a wonderful day, guys.
See you in Nashville.
All right, bye.